In a stunning escalation of instability in the Sahel, Nigerian President and Army General Ibrahim Traore narrowly escaped death today after coup plotters launched a brazen assassination attempt against him in the heart of the capital. The attack triggered hours of intense urban combat, with Nigerian forces and rapid reinforcements from the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, unleashing overwhelming firepower that forced the assailants to flee in disarray. As of this reporting, heavy tension grips Niamey, with security forces on high alert and the full scope of the conspiracy still unfolding. Eyewitnesses described chaos erupting around midday near a key government facility in Niamey, where President Tchiani was presiding over a high-level security coordination meeting involving AES partners. Armed assailants, reportedly a mix of rogue military officers and possibly infiltrated elements, opened fire with automatic weapons, grenades, and rocket-propelled devices aimed directly at the presidential detail. The ambush caught initial guards off guard, but loyalist forces from the Presidential Guard and elite Nigerian army units responded with ferocious counterfire. Within minutes, the streets echoed with sustained bursts of gunfire, explosions rocking nearby buildings, and vehicles erupting in flames. Sources close to the presidency indicate that Tchiani was moments away from being overwhelmed when AES military personnel, stationed in Niger as part of the Joint Unified Force, FU-AES, rushed to the scene. These AES troops, drawn from Burkina Faso and Mali contingents, brought additional armored vehicles and heavy machine guns into the fray. The combined Niger AES firepower turned the tide rapidly. Intense exchanges lasted over 2 hours, with reports of plotters attempting to storm the location from multiple directions before being repelled. Bodies of several attackers were left behind, along with abandoned weapons, ammunition caches, and communication devices that authorities are now analyzing for clues about the network behind the plot. This attempt comes against a backdrop of simmering discontent within Niger's military establishment and broader society. General Tchiani, who led the 2023 coup that ousted elected President Mohamed Bazoum and later formalized his rule as transitional president in March 2025, has pursued an assertive agenda of sovereignty. This includes nationalizing key uranium assets previously dominated by French interests, deepening military ties with Russia, and forming the AES Confederation with Mali and Burkina Faso to reject ECOWAS influence and Western military presence. Yet, cracks have appeared. Prolonged military rule without a clear return to civilian governance has fueled frustration among some officers who feel sidelined in promotions or resource allocation. Economic hardships persist despite resource nationalization efforts. High inflation, disrupted trade routes due to regional sanctions fallout, and ongoing jihadist insurgencies in the tri-border areas have tested public patience. Some factions within the armed forces reportedly resent the heavy integration with AES partners, viewing it as a dilution of Nigerian command autonomy, while others whisper about perceived favoritism toward Russian advisors. Insiders suggest the plotters may include mid- to high-ranking officers disillusioned by these shifts. Preliminary intelligence points to possible coordination with external sympathizers opposed to the junta's anti-Western pivot. Accusations are already flying toward lingering pro-French networks or destabilization efforts from neighboring states, though no concrete evidence has been publicly released. The involvement of AES forces in repelling the attack underscores the Confederation's deepening military interoperability but also highlights vulnerabilities in joint command structures during crises. Details emerging paint a picture of extraordinary courage and chaos. President Tchiani, protected by his close security detail, reportedly took cover as bullets shattered windows and shrapnel flew. Loyal troops formed human shields and returned fire with precision, while AES reinforcements, already on standby due to recent joint exercises, arrived in convoys that cut through traffic with sirens blaring. The gun battle spilled into adjacent streets, forcing civilians to duck for cover in homes and markets. Residents described the sound of heavy machine guns and what appeared to be mortar or RPG fire. Nigerian forces used armored personnel carriers to seal off escape routes, but a core group of plotters managed to break through a weaker perimeter point under covering fire, fleeing toward the outskirts of Niamey or possibly rural areas. Casualties among security forces and attackers remain unconfirmed officially, though local hospitals are on high alert. President Tchiani emerged shaken but resolute, issuing a brief statement condemning the cowardly betrayal by enemies of the nation. He praised the fraternal solidarity of AES forces and vowed that the perpetrators would face justice. Leaders from Mali and Burkina Faso have expressed full support, with indications that additional AES troops may be mobilized to secure key installations across the alliance. As dusk falls over Niamey, the city remains on edge. Checkpoints have multiplied, internet services are patchy in some areas, and security forces are conducting sweeps. The public response is mixed. Outpourings of support for Tchiani in pro-junta strongholds contrast with quiet anxiety in other neighborhoods about potential reprisals or further violence. The attack exposes deep fault lines in the Sahel's evolving power dynamics. The struggle between sovereignty-focused military alliances like the AES and lingering external influences, the challenges of maintaining unity amid shared threats from groups like ISIS Sahel and Al-Qaeda affiliates, and the internal pressures of governing without broad democratic legitimacy. Authorities have launched a massive manhunt, detaining several suspects linked to the military and scrutinizing communications. The coming hours and days will reveal more about the plot's depth, whether it was an isolated faction or part of a larger conspiracy that could threaten the stability of the entire AES bloc. The situation in Niger remains fluid and highly volatile. In a dramatic escalation, President General Ibrahim Traore has publicly accused France of masterminding the day's assassination attempt and broader coup plot, framing it as a desperate bid by Paris to reverse the massive development achieved under his leadership since the 2023 transition of power. Speaking in a nationally televised address from a secure location, flanked by top AES military commanders, Tchiani did not mince words. This attack was not born in Niger alone, he stated firmly. It carries the signature of France, the former colonial power that refuses to accept our sovereignty. Their goal is clear: to destabilize us, assassinate our leadership, and cripple the unprecedented progress we have made in reclaiming our resources, securing our borders, and building a future free from external domination. Tchiani's allegations come as security forces continue sweeping operations across Niamey and surrounding regions. According to junta sources, preliminary interrogations of captured suspects have yielded compelling indications of foreign backing, including financial transfers traced through intermediaries in neighboring countries and communications referencing French handlers. The president specifically pointed to elements within French intelligence services allegedly coordinating with disgruntled Nigerian officers and regional proxies in Benin and Côte d'Ivoire, countries he has previously labeled as staging grounds for anti-AES activities. This is not the first time the junta has clashed rhetorically with Paris. Relations collapsed after the 2023 coup, when Niger expelled French troops, closed military bases, and nationalized major uranium operations previously controlled by the French state-backed firm Orano. Tchiani's government has repeatedly accused France of economic sabotage, including efforts to isolate Niger diplomatically through ECOWAS and of stoking jihadist threats by withdrawing support at critical moments. In today's address, Tchiani delved into what he described as France's neo-colonial playbook. He claimed Paris views the AES alliance, not just Niger, as an existential threat because it demonstrates that Sahelian nations can thrive without Western tutelage. They see our unity with Mali and Burkina Faso, our partnerships with Russia and other sovereign friends, and they panic, he said. They want to drag us back into dependency. At the core of Tchiani's narrative is a detailed accounting of achievements he says the plot sought to destroy. Since assuming full transitional presidency in March 2025, his administration has pursued an ambitious sovereignty agenda. Resource sovereignty and economic gains. Full nationalization of key uranium mines has reportedly redirected billions in revenues previously flowing abroad into state coffers. New processing agreements with non-Western partners are said to be boosting local refining capacity and creating thousands of jobs. Infrastructure projects, including expanded road networks linking remote regions and solar energy initiatives in the arid north, have been touted as foundations for long-term energy independence. Security transformation. Through the AES Unified Force, joint operations with Mali and Burkina Faso, bolstered by Russian training and equipment, have claimed successes in degrading insurgent supply lines in the Liptako-Gourma region. Tchiani highlighted reduced attacks in certain border zones and the establishment of new forward operating bases, arguing this has created breathing room for civilian life that external powers are now trying to snatch away. Social and governance reforms. Anti-corruption drives have targeted officials linked to the pre-2023 era, with funds redirected toward healthcare expansion, youth vocational programs, and agricultural modernization aimed at food self-sufficiency. Supporters credit these moves with stabilizing rural economies hit hard by past instability and sanctions. Tchiani painted these gains as fragile but real, the first true steps toward dignity after decades of exploitation. He alleged that France, having lost lucrative contracts and strategic military footholds, is determined to engineer chaos to force a return to the status quo. They cannot tolerate a Niger that is strong, united, and allied with those who respect our independence, he declared, directly linking the assassination attempt to efforts to paralyze our momentum, just as AES integration deepens. The accusations have ignited immediate reactions across the Sahel. AES counterparts in Ouagadougou and Bamako issued joint statements of solidarity, with Burkina Faso's Captain Ibrahim Traore reportedly offering additional special forces to aid the manhunt. Russian diplomatic channels have echoed the claims, framing the incident as part of a Western campaign against multipolar partnerships in Africa. Within Niger, the speech has galvanized pro-junta crowds. Small but vocal demonstrations have formed in Niamey, with protesters chanting anti-French slogans and burning symbolic effigies. However, the capital remains tense. Extra checkpoints, nighttime curfew rumors, and a heavy military presence underscore fears that the plotters who fled may attempt further strikes or link up with sleeper cells. Critics and international observers, including French officials who have strongly denied any involvement, call the accusations baseless propaganda, designed to distract from internal junta fractures. France maintains it has no role in Niger's domestic affairs and has urged restraint to avoid further regional destabilization. As forensic teams examine weapons and documents recovered from the battle site, and as more arrests ripple through military ranks, the question of external orchestration hangs heavy over the investigation. Diplomatic cables are flying, borders are tightening, and the streets of Niamey pulse with a volatile mix of outrage, loyalty, and uncertainty. The full picture of this alleged foreign-backed conspiracy is still emerging. Fresh from accusing France of orchestrating the day's failed assassination attempt, President General Ibrahim Traore convened an urgent press conference this evening, flanked by senior Nigerian commanders and AES representatives. Speaking from a heavily fortified government complex under tight security, the leader outlined a comprehensive array of preventive measures already activated to stand our ground against any further threats, whether internal betrayal or externally sponsored destabilization. Tchiani appeared composed yet resolute, addressing a small group of local journalists and select international outlets via state television feed. "We will not be caught off guard again," he declared. "The enemy has shown its hand, and we have responded with the full force of a sovereign nation united with its AES brothers. These measures are not temporary reactions. They are the steel backbone ensuring that the progress of our people cannot be reversed." The president delved deeply into the multi-pronged strategy, revealing that several initiatives had been quietly prepared or accelerated in recent weeks amid rising intelligence warnings. Military reinforcement and general mobilization. Tchiani announced the immediate extension of the existing general mobilization framework, previously focused on jihadist threats, to encompass hybrid internal-external aggression. This includes the requisition of personnel, vehicles, and logistical resources across the country. Elite units from the Nigerian armed forces have been redeployed to key urban centers, including Niamey, with rapid reaction battalions positioned around presidential sites, ministries, and critical infrastructure. AES integration has been elevated to a new level. Joint command posts with Burkina Faso and Mali officers are now operational 24/7, enabling seamless intelligence sharing and cross-border pursuit of fleeing plotters. Russian military advisors, already embedded in several bases, have been tasked with enhancing air defense and electronic warfare capabilities, including drone surveillance corridors over the capital and border regions. Tchiani emphasized that the fierce gun battle earlier today proved the effectiveness of this alliance. When our forces combined, the traitors fled like cowards. Intelligence overhaul and internal purges. In a striking revelation, the president disclosed ongoing, comprehensive loyalty audits within the military and security services. Hundreds of officers and personnel are undergoing vetting, with several high-profile detentions already executed based on links to the day's events. Advanced surveillance protocols, incorporating expanded cyber monitoring, informant networks in border communities, and aerial reconnaissance, have been ramped up to detect sleeper cells or foreign-backed financing channels. Tchiani claimed that intercepted communications from the plotters revealed plans for coordinated follow-up strikes on economic targets, prompting preemptive strikes on suspected safe houses. "We are dismantling their networks from the roots," he stated, warning that anyone found collaborating with hostile foreign powers would face the full weight of military justice. Critical infrastructure fortress. Special protection details have been assigned to uranium mining operations, energy facilities, transport corridors, and communication hubs. Mobile armored patrols now crisscross major routes, while community defense committees, composed of vetted local volunteers, are being activated in rural areas to report suspicious movements. The president highlighted recent investments in these sites as the lifeblood of our development, arguing that safeguarding them directly counters attempts to economically strangle the nation. Public vigilance and information warfare. On the societal front, Tchiani called for nationwide civic alertness, urging citizens to report any unusual activity through dedicated hotlines and apps. State media has launched an intensive campaign framing the measures as collective self-defense against neo-colonial subversion. This includes public broadcasts detailing signs of foreign interference and reinforcing narratives of AES solidarity. Schools and mosques have been encouraged to participate in awareness sessions, blending security education with patriotic messaging. These steps, according to the president, demonstrate Niger's refusal to yield. By layering conventional military strength with alliance-backed technology, internal cleansing, and grassroots mobilization, the junta aims to create a resilient deterrent that signals to adversaries. Any future attack will meet even fiercer resistance. The press conference itself unfolded under extraordinary security. Journalists were screened, and the venue buzzed with armed personnel. Tchiani fielded limited questions, repeatedly pivoting back to the theme of sovereignty and the tangible gains, infrastructure, resource control, and security cooperation, that external forces allegedly seek to undo. As checkpoints multiply across the capital and reports of additional sweeps emerge from provincial towns, the atmosphere in Niamey crackles with a blend of defiance and apprehension. The preventive architecture is now fully in motion.